Are you ready for the word?
Yeah.
A little over 19 years ago, we were remodeling that building that we had leased in South Huntsville. And someone, not me, but someone decided it would be a great idea in the midst of doing all that to rent lanes at a local bowling alley and do midnight bowling. Two things I distinctly remember about that bowling night. One, on the night we went bowling, I had spent all day going up and down a step ladder dealing with insulating that building and putting in lights. And my right knee was hurting badly. And as we were bowling, I was having trouble with it, so I had gone and sat down and I was rubbing it. Marie saw it and she came over and sat down beside me and she said, "What's wrong?" I said, "My knee hurts." She said, "Is it the one you had surgery on?" I'd had surgery in high school on a knee. She said, "Is it the one you had surgery on?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, is it the other one?" I said, "Well, I'm going to have to think on that one for a minute and I'll get back with you on it." All right. The other thing I remember distinctly about that night was it was the first night that I met Indya. And I think it was kind of a setup or a blind date for you two, was it not? Yeah. The two of them have been with us for over 19 years. They met here and they married here. And they have had 3 children that they have raised here. When Colin was born, how much did he weigh?
2 pounds and 14 ounces.
2 pounds and 14 ounces. He was just a little tiny things, and now he's a big old strapping young man. 16, 15, 15 years old.
2
So,
weeks.
do I now?
2 weeks, it'll be 16.
Be 16 in 2 weeks. That's awesome. As I was saying, the Moores have been with us for over 19 years. They grew up with my children here in the assembly. They met one another here. They married here. They now have 3 children, Colin, Paisley, and Jordan. They don't just attend. They serve. You may not know it because it's quietly and in the background. They're willing to work and they work hard just because that's who they are. In the last 19 years, I've seen them go through hard times. Whew, come on here now. I've seen them go through dark times, times of great financial and spiritual struggle. Most who go through those kind of struggles quit. But not them. No, they've been steadfast and unmovable.
Yes.
So theirs is a testimony you need to hear.
Yes.
Come on, guys.
And I'd hoped to get through this without crying, but the tears have already started, so.
Thanks, Steve.
For me too.
Started attending the Church of Huntsville in 2004. Steve has kind of already covered this part, but I'm going to say it again. I was working at Kroger Pharmacy at the time, and one of my coworkers kept inviting me to her church. I was not brought up in church. I just kind of felt like it wasn't something that was for me. So I kept putting her off. And then she also kept mentioning this guy that she wanted me to meet. So there was a church bowling night in May that I decided to go to. I met Steve and Marie that night, and met Matt that night. That was in May. And then July of that year, I started attending service at the church. The first service that I attended, that was the first time that I heard the name Yahweh. And it was also the first time that I ever heard anyone speak in tongues. I did not know what the heck she brought me into. Looking at her thinking, I thought you guys believed in God. Like, what kind of church is this? But I came in at a good time because they had just started a study on the name. So it was good timing. I learned a lot. Yahweh's timing is good that way. Fast forward a couple years, Matt and I were married in 2006. Steve mentioned our kids. We have 3 kids. And we just celebrated our 16th anniversary. I really don't know what my life would look like if she hadn't persisted and if she hadn't persisted and got me to that church. So I'll be forever grateful to her for that. Steve, this is your fault. I was doing good. Early on in our marriage, we did celebrate Christmas and Easter. When our oldest 2 were maybe 4 and 2, we decided to stop. It was really tough at first. I think most of our family thought it was just a phase that we were going through.
Right.
We would still get invited to Christmas dinners and Easter lunches. Most of the time, I would want to cave, just go to the meal, and thinking it's just a meal with our family, no big deal. But thank goodness Matt had a backbone to say no when I didn't.
Right.
And that was most of the time I wanted to cave. But now, I can't imagine going back to that.
Yes.
Thinking about the celebrations now, just all I can remember is the disappointment. It seems like there was always so much anticipation leading up to those holidays, and then it was over, and that was just a disappointment.
That's right.
My kids will never have to know that disappointment or the struggles of breaking free from those pagan celebrations, because there's never disappointment when celebrating Yahweh's feast.
There you go.
I'll get it together, y'all. Give me just a second.
You're doing good.
Let's see. We started homeschooling our kids. We started in public school, then went to homeschool. And homeschooling has made all the difference in being able to actually partake in Yahweh's feasts. If they're in public school, there'd be a lot that we missed out on. We always knew that we wanted to homeschool, but didn't know where to start. We had no experience with it. But I was walking the kids into school one morning, and I heard leading the lambs to slaughter. And I knew that we couldn't public school anymore after that. Oh my goodness. I wish I could say that we started homeschooling right away. It didn't work out that way, but we did eventually homeschool, and Yahweh's made a way for us to continue to homeschool. This is our 6th year. In the beginning, when people would ask me how it was going, usually my response was something like, I worry that they aren't learning everything they'd be learning in public school. But today, if you ask me, it's changed too. I'm so grateful that they're not learning everything that they'd be learning in public school. It's been a huge blessing for us to be able to homeschool the kids. And one thing that I worried about was how would they make friends? You know, homeschooling, there's not a lot of socialization, but Yahweh gave them best friends from birth. Growing up, I knew that I always wanted best friends that had kids that my kids could be best friends with, and Yahweh let me hear, and I have that now. And he changed my life, and he uses his family to do it. So I'm so thankful for you guys, and I'm honored to be walking this journey with y'all.
Amen.
That's all I got.
All right.
Morning.
Morning.
I was doing good this morning. Had it all buttoned up, holding it together, and Steve just blew it all away. So I'll do my best to get through. I got the text last Sunday morning. I knew this day was coming as soon as you started asking other people to come. So my first answer was no. Flat, no. But I decided not to answer right away. We usually use Sundays to catch up work around the house and go on any adventures that we have, whatever. We had decided that day to go hiking. And as is usually our fashion, we didn't know where we were going. We just last minute hey, we'll find, Google something. Walls of Jericho was 18 minutes from the house. So thought, well, heck, we'll just go. We didn't figure out what it was like or any of that stuff. So we got up there, trailhead, and I was looking at the sign. It says 3 miles. Well, 3 miles, that's not bad. It's a lie. It is a flat out lie. It's 10 miles off the mountain and it's like 15 back up. It's bad. But we weren't ready. But there was a couple times on the way down we should have stopped and turned around, but we didn't. We made it all the way back and had a good time. It was just me and the boys, me and Colin and Jordan. And we had a good time. We learned a little bit about ourselves that day. Before we started back up, I told them, I said, I have a feeling our mental toughness is about to get challenged. And it did. And the whole time that question of, what would I say? Was rolling around. And I didn't want to do this and get emotional, and I wanted to get through it. I didn't feel like I could. So just rolling around, and on the way back up the hill I was reminded of Hosea, one of his kids. Because I was trying to figure out the place to start. Where would I start? Where do I start? Do I start when I came to the church of Huntsville? Do I start earlier? Do I start somewhere in the middle? As I was reminded of Hosea's son, I realized I was supposed to start earlier. And if you want to turn to Hosea 1, there we go. Now Hosea, he was told by Yahweh to go and take a wife of whoredoms. And they had one son, and then their second child was a daughter, and they named her Lo Ruhamah, which means no mercy. Shortly after she was weaned, there in verse 8, it says, Now when she had weaned Lo Ruhamah, she conceived and bare a son. Then said Yahweh, Call his name Lo Ami, for you are not my people, and I will not be your Elohim. Lo Ami means not my people. And I feel like that's largely the way my life started. Not belonging to any one place or the other. Kind of in between whoredom and righteousness. And I'm not talking about my parents. I'm talking about a system that we were born into. I came from a broken home. My parents were divorced when I was around 2 or so. And I never seemed to fit on either side. Kind of went back and forth. I was too quiet and reserved for one side and too rambunctious and rough for the other. But through those times of going back and forth, house to house, first one, then the other, you kind of gain a perspective. You kind of get a unique look at the way things go. If you're if you don't feel like you're a part, and of course that's kind of my personality. I'm quiet. I like to sit back and watch, and so I didn't just jump right in the middle of everything, and so a lot of it was on me that I didn't join in, but I wanted to see how things were going. I wanted to see what things were about, and so I got to look and I got to see the people in my life. One side was steeped in religion and believed wholeheartedly in church and the Bible. And the other side, sort of indifferent. We went to church every now and then. And it was not really something that had a big impact on their lives. So, kind of marched along there, just kind of sitting back and watching, and I learned how to look at myself and examine the things who I was and what I did. And when I was 10, I figured out that I wasn't going where I wanted to go, and I wasn't in a place that I thought could get me there. So I made a phone call that to this day is still the hardest one I ever made. And I told my mom I didn't want to live with her anymore. I could tell it broke her heart. And I hated it. But I knew I needed to be around my dad because I wanted to be a man.
Right.
So after that was the side that was steeped in religion. My great-grandfather was a well-known Baptist preacher where I grew up. My granddad was a deacon in the church that I attended mostly when I was a kid. My dad, he largely wanted nothing to do with church. He told me that the Bible was the truth, taught me to seek the truth, taught me to believe the Bible, taught me to distrust church leaders. I don't know where he got that, what experience he had to bring him to that, but I was content to kind of wait and see, kind of stay back like I always had and just observe. I saw a lot of phonies in my family, around the minister, and in the churches that we attended. My dad believed wholeheartedly in the Bible, and he made every attempt to learn and to grow in it and to find the truth. And we bounced around church to church. But in that situation, I started to question. I learned how to read for myself and started to question some of the things that I was getting because I was going to church most weeks. I made that decision to go with my grandparents. And, you have those experiences where you go to the youth room and they say, well, what's your favorite scripture? And you say, well, it's Philippians 4:13. I can do all things. And they said, well, not really all things, there's some caveats there. You got to look out. And I said, well, that's not what the Bible says. So the questions started growing. And when I was 17, my dad got remarried to a lady that was going to a church that it was different. It was a Word of Faith church. And my whole family tried to talk my dad out of going with her. Man, those people are weird. That's a cult down there. You don't know what you're getting into. And so he started going, and I was doing my usual kind of wait and see. And before too long, I couldn't ignore the questions I had anymore. And so I decided to go and follow my curiosity. And I found my eyes were open to a lot of things. Man, I was excited. I found people there, friends there who were like-minded, who wanted to do good and wanted to be good. And man, we had a good time a lot of times. We had a lot of adventures. We learned a lot. I got steeped in the helps ministry. I got pulled in. I would park cars in the parking lot and then go put on an usher coat and sit people in their seats and take up offerings. And then certain nights I would run the soundboard, help with the youth, help clean up after guest ministers. I was in pretty deep. During that time, I'd gotten to be really good friends with the pastor's son. I spent at least one night a week at his house. I went on vacation with him and all. And over time, though, something started to change there. I started noticing that there was questions I had there that couldn't be answered. And then there were things that they were teaching that were also not lining up with the Bible. Well, it wasn't long till all that stuff came to the top, and the pastor turned out to be a crook, among other things. And through a series of events, my dad, who I was working with at the time, who I trusted wholeheartedly, and I looked up to, I hoped to be a man that he could look up to. And all of a sudden, everything came to a head. And the church closed down. We stopped having any association with any of those people. I lost friends. I was told I was not allowed to go back or to communicate. And then my dad told me he didn't trust me because he felt like he'd caught me in a lie, and he didn't. It was just misinformation. But it hurt me.
Right.
And so I took that step back again and just tried to kind of take stock of everything that was going on. And I remember I was riding in the passenger seat of his 1-ton Chevy pickup truck when all of this sort of came down, and I was crying, and I just leaned my head against the window. A moment, I had a flash of vision. I saw a stream. I was in a wide open space, just white. As far as you could see, there was a line, a horizon line that you could tell, and there was a stream. It was about this wide, and it was clear blue, running right down beside me. And next to me, there was a rock, and it was about this tall. And all over it, there were different patches of different areas of things sectioned off, painted different colors, with different people's names, different things that I held dear in there. And all at once, the rain came. And all those things washed just right off of there and ran into that stream, and they were gone. And that was where I was. I was left. And I remember I saw myself sitting there holding on to that rock. And I gained an understanding that the rock is still there. YAHWEH, He's still there.
Right.
That He was not those people. He was not that place.
Right.
He was not those things. And I decided right then and there that I will not build my life around people and things.
Right.
Now, I said that a few years ago at, I think it was our 14-year anniversary. And I didn't clarify it. I kicked myself. I value the relationships that we have.
Right.
That I have with everybody here. But I've come to understand that most relationships are for a season, for a time. And that just because people left doesn't mean that they're bad or you're bad. Just means that season's over. You move on. So immediately, as soon as that vision was over, it was clear. I got to keep going. I can't quit like I had just been thinking about doing. I'm just going to go make some money and I'm just going to live however I want to. Well, all of a sudden that was out the window. But Yahweh reminded me that I had met Steve and that he had started a church in Huntsville. And that's where I needed to be. So I came. And I still had a zeal for the things of Yahweh, for the things in His Word. I still had a zeal to minister in some way. So I came to help. It's easier for me to work than to talk. So I'm pretty good at working. So that's why we work. That's why I work. I don't say stupid stuff and put my foot in my mouth. It's comfort. So, anyways, we came, and it was good. It was a new purpose. It was a new place, new friends. I knew already, but we got closer and began to grow, and the Word began to really study and to lean in. And the other church that I had gone to, we didn't do Santa Claus or Easter bunnies, but we did wholeheartedly. We did Easter and Christmas with all the zeal we could muster. And so it was a change, letting go of those things. Though I knew, just from when I was a kid, sitting back and watching, like, hey, this ain't right. Where is this in there? And so I felt at home letting go of those things. I felt comfortable. The number one day that stands out to me, though, early on in the church, we were in that building that had been remodeled. We were sitting there, and Steve came one Sunday morning and taught on the Sabbath and how it was still for us, and it was still on the seventh day. And towards the end, he said, well, we're going to endeavor to keep the Sabbath. And as soon as he finished, I know he was probably nervous about how everybody was going to receive it. And Conrad Brown,
Yep.
Sure do.
he said, when are we going to start? And Steve said, well, I guess we'll start next week.
Right.
Man, my heart jumped.
Yep.
I was excited. I got asked later, I think we were at the Browns' house. I think it was me and Lisa and their son-in-law, and he was kind of questioning some of the things that we were doing. And Lisa turned to me and said, well, what is it to you about the Sabbath that gets you so excited? And I just said, well, it feels like we're doing something.
Right.
I got a funny look because, we're not meeting on Sundays anymore. We're meeting on Saturdays. But we're doing something that the world will not do.
Yes.
Right.
We're leaving the traditions that we were raised in, the whoredom that we were brought up in. And we're choosing the righteousness. So, we're slowly becoming no longer not my people.
You're right. Amen.
We're working towards my people, being His people.
Right.
So we learned and grew, and during that time I met Indya. We have 3 awesome kids.
Yes, you did.
And honestly, since I was little, I remember thinking I want a family. I want to do it right.
Right.
If it were not for the things that we learned here in the place that Yahweh led us, Colin wouldn't be here. Jordan wouldn't be here. Yahweh saved them
Yes, he did.
and blessed us with them. So now here we are, and things are moving along, and we're learning a lot, and we're pushing forward. We've lost a lot of folks, not just here in the assembly, but family still looks at me funny when I come around. But it's where we are. It's what we've been called to do. It's where we know we're supposed to be. When you follow the truth, you can't go wrong.
Amen.
I want to go. I had reservations even after I decided to do this. So I called Steve. I think it was Monday afternoon, and we talked. And in the middle of that conversation, he was reassuring me that I had something I needed to say, and it was worth saying. And I was reminded of Isaiah. If y'all want to turn there, it's Isaiah 20. Don't read ahead. We'll work through it together. Isaiah 20. Now Isaiah 18 and 19 is a pretty stern and heavy, serious prophecy to Ethiopia and to Egypt. Isaiah 20 tells a little bit about how he received that word to those nations. And I remember when I first was, I listened to this. Isaiah was always a book that you knew certain chapters, certain verses, but I never really had gone through it or read it. So I had set out. I have a lot of time at work sometimes to listen while I'm running equipment, different things. And so I was listening through, and I'm not sure how I sort of happened to be listening intently at this moment, but we'll start in verse 1. In the year that Tartan came unto Ashdod, when Sargon, the king of Assyria, sent him, and fought against Ashdod, and took it, at the same time spake Yahweh by Isaiah the son of Amoz, saying, Go and loose the sackcloth from off your loins, and put off your shoe from your foot. And he did so, walking naked and barefoot. Now, I was listening along, and you think of Isaiah, he's a pretty serious character. And all of a sudden, it's like Yahweh just told Isaiah to go walk naked, to go walk around naked. And it floored me. My mind just was off somewhere. I didn't hear any of the rest of it for a while, just thinking, how did this work? What did he have did he ask? What, are you sure? How many times did he have to get that word before he did it? I don't know, but it was a few chapters later I finally came back to the recording, or my mind finally settled back to where I could listen. And so I skipped it back, still thinking about that day that Isaiah had to walk naked. What an awful, awkward, weird day. And then it got to verse 3 when I skipped back, and I heard, and Yahweh said, like as my servant Isaiah has walked naked and barefoot 3 years for a sign and a wonder upon Egypt and Ethiopia. My mind was gone again. 3 years. What in the world? It wasn't a day. It was, I mean, you could get through a day without thinking about it. I mean, just, put your head down and just, let's go. Don't pay attention to anybody. Here we go. Let's get through this. Come on. 3 years takes a special effort. 3 years, you can't avoid those looks for 3 years. I mean, it doesn't give a whole lot of detail, but I mean, it makes you wonder, like, did he start right away? Did he say, hang on, I'm going to start some P90X and make sure I get Beachbody ready for the show. I need to hit the tanning bed, get rid of some of these lines. What went into, did he just jump right into it? Take out a map and map out his route. There's a cactus here. Let's stay away from that. Make sure we hit the Dunkin' Donuts on the way through. Watch out for the school zones. Don't want to get arrested. 3 years this man walked barefoot and naked. How many priests came and said, hey, you can't do this. This ain't right. How many Karens down the street told him, hey, you need to put some clothes on? How many times did he doubt himself?
Sure.
Did I really hear what I think I heard? Did I miss the part where he told me to stop? Was that on day 2?
Right.
I mean, how long have I been walking around here and didn't need to?
Right.
But he kept walking. And we have an account that he did that because he kept walking. He didn't quit in the middle. He didn't give up and say it ain't worth it. He kept going. So I'm going to keep going.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I encourage y'all to do the same.
Yes, sir.
There's no hardship that you can face that would be as bad as facing it with no clothes on. You still got clothes on. Let's go.
Amen.
Let's keep pushing. Let's keep going forward.
Yes.
So that's it.
Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. As his name is put upon you, so shall he himself bless you.